AP World History, Topic 4.6 Internal and External Challenges to State Power from 1450 to 1750. Essential question: how did the development of state power result in external and internal challenges in the period between 1450 and 1750? As empires developed and evolved, social, political, and economic groups across the globe resisted state expansion, and some of these revolts occurred within the heart of these empires. Let's dive into some key examples of these challenges. In France, between 1648 and 1653, the Fronde civil disturbances took center stage as an attempt to curb the growing royal power. This resistance emerged as an internal challenge against state centralization. Moving across the Atlantic to the American colonies, Metacom's War, also known as King Philip's War, unfolded from 1675 to 1678. This conflict was in part a response to the underhanded tactics employed by English colonists in their relentless efforts to control Native American lands. Here, we see how the struggle against state expansion extended to the colonies, where indigenous peoples resisted the encroachment of colonial powers. Meanwhile, in Russia, resistance to state power came from within the empire. While conditions had improved for serfs in Western Europe by the 14th century, Russian serfs continued to suffer under oppressive conditions. The central government weakened during wars in the 14th and 15th centuries, which, in turn, increased the power of the nobility. As demand for grain increased, nobles imposed harsh conditions on the serfs, who had been oppressed for centuries. The practice of serfdom was a means of control, regulated by the nobility, and it benefited the government by providing free labor. This was a striking example of internal resistance to state power expansion. Cossacks, skilled fighters living in southwestern Russia near the Black Sea, were sometimes at odds with the central, autocratic government of the Tsars. However, they also served as mercenaries defending Russia against external threats, showcasing the complex dynamics of state expansion and internal resistance. A particularly remarkable rebellion in Russia was led by Emelian Pugachev in 1774 against Catherine the Great. Pugachev gathered discontented peasants, people from various ethnic groups, and fellow Cossacks, briefly controlling a significant territory before being captured and executed by the Russian government. This rebellion prompted Catherine to increase oppression on the peasants, with the support of the nobility. Now, shifting to South Asia, we find another example of internal resistance. The Maratha, a Hindu warrior group, waged battles against the Mughal Empire in the 16th and 17th centuries. These conflicts resulted in the creation of the Hindu Maratha Empire, effectively ending Mughal rule in India. Spain, with its vast empire, also experienced rebellions within its territories. In 1680, the Pueblo Revolt erupted in what is now New Mexico. Indigenous Pueblo and Apache groups fought against Spanish colonizers who sought to force religious conversions. In the Caribbean and former Spanish territories in the Americas, enslaved Africans fought for their freedom in what became known as the Maroon Wars. These were descendants of runaway African slaves who established independent settlements. Notably, Queen Nanny, herself an escaped slave, united all the Maroons of the island, earning recognition as a national hero. But it's essential to note that slave revolts were common in the Americas, especially in locations where enslaved Africans outnumbered free Europeans. The Gloucester County Rebellion in Virginia in 1663 is an early recorded example where enslaved Africans and white indentured servants conspired together to demand freedom, although the plot was discovered and suppressed. Metacom's War, as discussed earlier, was a significant effort by indigenous people to resist British expansion in New England. The war spread across the region and resulted in the destruction of many towns. Let's not forget that struggles for power and resistance took place within England as well. In 1688, the Glorious Revolution saw James II removed in favor of William of Orange and Mary II, strengthening the power of Parliament and ensuring Protestant rule. This was an internal challenge within the English state. External challenges to state power occurred when empires, while expanding and consolidating their power, encountered resistance from external sources, be it other states, indigenous populations, or rival colonial powers. Let's explore some of these significant external challenges that emerged during the period between 1450 and 1750. Colonial conflicts. One of the most prominent external challenges was colonial conflicts. As European powers embarked on overseas exploration and expansion, they often clashed with indigenous peoples and each other. The 7 Years' War, which raged from 1756 to 1763, serves as a prime example of how disputes over colonial territories led to a global conflict. This war involved European powers vying for control of regions in North America, Africa, and India. In these conflicts, state powers faced external resistance from rival colonial empires and indigenous populations who resisted foreign rule. Ottoman Empire's expansion and challenges. Moving to the eastern part of the world, we find the Ottoman Empire, a formidable power in the 16th and 17th centuries. As the Ottomans expanded their territories, they encountered challenges from neighboring states. The Safavid Empire in Persia, for instance, often engaged in conflicts with the Ottoman Empire, leading to external challenges to Ottoman state power. Similarly, the Habsburg monarchy in Central Europe was a source of external resistance as it sought to protect its interests and territory. Chinese dynastic expansion. China, with its rich history and vast territory, also faced external challenges during periods of expansion. The expansion of Chinese dynasties often resulted in confrontations with nomadic tribes in the north. Moreover, they had to contend with external challenges from neighboring states. For instance, as the Qing dynasty expanded into Siberia, it had to deal with Russian expansion in the region. These challenges illustrate how state expansion can lead to conflicts with external powers. Resistance to Portuguese expansion. In the realm of colonial expansion, the Portuguese, after their success in South Asia, sought to establish a presence in Africa. However, by the 17th century, the Dutch and English had become formidable rivals. They pushed the Portuguese out of South Asia and, as a result, the Portuguese turned to Africa to build their colonies. Ana Nzinga, a remarkable figure in the 17th century, became the ruler of Ndongo in present-day Angola. Initially, she allied with the Portuguese to protect her people from neighboring threats and to halt Portuguese slave raids. Yet, this alliance eventually broke down. Nzinga and her people fled westward, took control of Matamba, incited a rebellion in Ndongo, and aligned with the Dutch. This episode exemplifies how external challenges could emerge as rival colonial powers clashed, undermining Portuguese state expansion in Africa. And that covers the information that you need to know in order to answer the essential question: how did the development of state power result in external and internal challenges in the period between 1450 and 1750?